and gentlemen. Use the mic. Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks, Robert. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation to provide a brief and update on the progress we are making on the M1 from the City of Johannesburg, but also to bring our residents up to date in relation to the work that we are doing and the incidents that we are dealing with. My name is Tsepo Makola. I am the Chief Operations Officer in the City of Johannesburg, but today I will address you in my cap as the Head of Communications in the City of Johannesburg. On the panel, I have the City Manager of the city, Mr. Floyd Brink. I have the Group Executive from City Power, Charles, who is, of course, here on behalf of the CEO at City Power. She's currently off sick and obviously can't join us. Next to Charles, we have the Head of Security at City Power, who is also going to talk to us about what we found on the scene post our investigation and the work we are doing. Then on my left, we have Mr. Brink from EMS. He's Head of Operations and of course will respond to our immediate response, that the activation there. Next to him is Mr. Masinge, who's the Director of Proactive Services at EMS, who will probably take us through further investigations that we are conducting to understand and analyze the incident and what really transpired and how do we prevent that moving forward. And of course, we have Kaya from JRA, who will then take us through the safety aspects from JRA on the bridges and of course the work that we still need to do moving forward. The program is really going to be short, colleagues. I'm going to allow the city manager to then take us through the incident report, and it really has a flow from EMS to City Power, and then we'll close with JRA. Then after that, we'll open up for questions. We'll do a question and answer session, and then I think we've really just looked at, we probably want to take you to the site after that. We've made a couple of arrangements to put you in the bus and take you to the site so you can visually see the work that's already been done and the work that we want to do further. So without wasting time, colleagues, let me bring on to the platform the city manager to then take us through the report. City manager.
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you, Program Director. I don't see any councillors that are present here. Let me check if I'm audible without this. Will you be able to hear me? Not at all. Okay, thanks. Thank you to the Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Tsepo Makola, all our senior officials here from our entities, our departments, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So today it's really for us to be able to provide you with some form of an update with regard to that M1 rehabilitation project following that particular incident that took place on Tuesday, the 30th of April on the M1 double-decker highway. So the manner in which I would want to report back is really to provide an indication from the side of the emergency management services. Then I will get into the City Power space as well as that of JRA. I will start off with the emergency management services in terms of the background, what took place, and on my left you'll see that the team from EMS is here to be able to also to respond to any other technical questions. So upon receiving reports of an underground fire along the M1, the emergency management services team swiftly responded to the scene. Our fire workers worked diligently to ensure that they contained the fire, with also some additional resources and equipment that they've deployed to assist them in firefighting and the firefighting operations, specifically in that area. But as the situation unfolded, a substation fire Load shedding.
Hey, what's happening?
No, I'm joking.
When I put this one comes up. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Let's try again. So as the situation unfolded on that particular day, a substation fire was also reported on the M1 and Car Street, which was promptly extinguished by our fire crews. Subsequently, efforts were focused on the main fire along M1 next to Smith Street, where specialized equipment from City Power was utilized to access the cable network that was affected by that fire. So if you go back to site, and once we access the site today, the team from City Power will be able to explain to you it's about plus minus 450 meters of cable in that particular area that was affected. So due to the presence of that particular toxic smoke that emanated from the tunnel, the decision was then for us to close the M1 highway in both directions of Smith Street below the M1 to ensure the safety of our motorists in that area. And that was really indeed for us, one, on the side of reactive, but also it was also for us to prevent any possible issues and to ensure the safety of our motorists in that area. The firefighting operations then continued with the support of additional resources and eventually leading to the successful extinguishing of that particular fire around 6 o'clock the evening on the 1st of May. So it took some time for the team to really ensure in terms of that operations. But following that particular incident, thorough site monitoring was then conducted to assess the integrity of the affected area and also to ensure the safety of our own workers and our firefighters. City Power officials have also then ensured that they've taken over to conduct assessments and begin the necessary repair work and the restoration work. So the first respondents were EMS. Then we started to work with the team from City Power. So in terms of the feedback, specifically from a City Power point of view, so our inner city service delivery center received a notification regarding a trip on Bramfontein 2 from the Fordsburg substation. A field team was then promptly dispatched to investigate that particular situation. While en route to that area, the team then observed firefighters responding to the M1 bridge between Smith and Car Street in Bramfontein. The fire appeared to be originating from the tunnel adjacent to the bridge. The City Power, where City Power's 88 kV oil-filled XLPE cables as well as 11 kV distribution network and communication cables are located. So system control was then notified, and the Bramfontein substation was then remotely switched off to prevent further damage to the electrical infrastructure, impacting the Bramfontein area, parts of Newtown and Kliptown and Parktown. So on May the 1st, reports of poor visibility and heavy smoke on the bridge prompted notification to EMS. So the fire had then reignited and was successfully extinguished around 6 or so. The freeway was temporarily closed on both sides and reopened around 1830 with only the left lane. So even if you go there now, you'll realize that the left lane southbound section of that area, it remains closed for ongoing rehabilitation of the affected area. Subsequent inspections on the 2nd of May took place, which revealed elevated temperatures in the tunnels, necessitating further assessment from the City Power team. So as the EMS team worked with City Power, as and when they detected that level of elevated temperatures, further work needed to be done. City Power then had to still explore backfeeding options where feasible and connecting institutions such as Wits University, Liberty Life, Bram Park, Sappi Building and Tusa House via alternative distributors. On the 3rd of May, the EMS team confirmed the absence of smoke or fire in the tunnel with temperature levels returning to normal. The site was then handed over to the JRA team for them to then ensure that they start to conduct structural integrity and assessments of the bridge. The JRA team then granted City Power clearance to lay the cables without heavy machinery in the tunnel. That was really to ensure that they follow the safety standards and also to ensure that the City Power Shed team are able to enter that particular area and that affected place there. But during the tunnel investigations, it was then clear that miscellaneous items were recovered, which prompted us to then look at our security review. We then brought in our security teams to be able to assess specifically on those miscellaneous items that they've recovered there. Our City Power's senior management team were deployed to that site, linked with the SHAC team, our energy management team, transmission, public lighting, insurance, and our IoT. They then convened an on-site meeting and a site local inspection in order for them to be able to establish the cause specific of that fire, the extent of the damage, and the potential solutions and the immediate interventions for us to be able then to restore. Some of the key highlights that you then need to note: the Fordsburg and the Bramfontein substations remain structurally intact. Fordsburg substation is operational as we speak, while Bramfontein substation remains offline pending repairs, and our team from City Power will be able to indicate to you what are some of the processes and the solutions that we will be following and what we are approaching and what we will be doing between today and tomorrow in that area. City Power is pursuing two approaches to address the outage. One is to replace the burnt cables. That is work in progress. So as and when we go to site, you'll be able to see the contractor on site as they're installing new interconnector cables between Ford and Bramfontein substations. Linked to this, parallel to this, you also have insurance assessments that have been completed and the claim has been lodged with insurers. Ongoing communication efforts are being coordinated through the relationship management team and the key shareholders and stakeholders, councillors and residents at large. And all of this is also centralized through to our group communications department. Now from a JRA, Johannesburg Roads Agency point of view and the progress to date, so the JRA has conducted an assessment of the damage caused by the fire, also revealing some structural damage to the bridge and support structures due to the electrical cables. Now in terms of background, if you look at that particular bridge, that bridge was constructed around 1971 or 1972. So despite the fire damage, a recent inspection was also conducted around 2018-19 financial year, and the bridge was then declared to be in a good condition and safe for use. That was around 2018-19. So the team from JRA will also be able to indicate to you the type of work that they would have done each and other financial year linked to reactive and or preventative maintenance on those bridges. So some of the short-term interventions that are underway is really to ensure that we secure the falling concrete panel pieces of the bridge at Smith Street. You would have realized that there were some concrete panels that fell on that particular day, and that is linked to that excessive heat that I spoke about. And that was at Smith Street under the M1 section, and that is to prevent any further risk, ensuring road user safety. This solution will then include the installation of steel strips along the falling concrete panels, along the 500 meter or so strip of the affected span of the structure. So it is critical then to know there will be a specific steel structure that we'll put in place in the next 2 weeks to prevent those concrete to fall onto any motorists. Again, it's a preventative measure, and the teams will be able to explain that technically. That will be done in the next 2 weeks, and I've been informed that a contractor has been appointed specifically for this. In the long term, our principal visual condition inspection, which includes lab testing to assess the bridge structure with an estimate of about 10 million that we need to spend in the medium to long term. Again, it's something that we can explain to you whilst we're on site to be able to indicate to you what it is that we will be doing specifically on the bridge. As a city, we remain committed to prioritizing public safety and minimizing disruptions caused by these particular road closures in the affected area. The drivers are also therefore advised to use alternative routes to avoid congestion in the area, and the public is urged to steer clear of the area beneath the M1 bridge, on Smith Street in particular, and the Bramfontein rail yard until repairs are completed. So I'm sure there will be a question, is the bridge safe to use? Can we drive on the bridge? Yes, you may drive on the bridge. We will be doing preventative work, and in the next week, 2 weeks or so, we should be able to open up the area at Smith Street based on that preventative work that we will be doing. So there's nothing wrong structurally with regard to the bridge. We do have a structural engineer's report that indicated that the bridge is still safe in order for us to use the bridge. The City of Johannesburg is quite concerned about the high level of sabotage of our infrastructure, which is impacting our ability to render services. We do believe that if you look at some of these issues, like we've indicated, there's some miscellaneous items that we've detected and recovered there, and that is why the head of security of City Power is here with us as well. Already they managed to lodge a case, so there is a case with a case number, and the team will be working closely with SAPS. And we believe that it's unfair towards our residents for this level of inconvenience, but it's also unfair towards the city if you look at what is happening, because all of these issues are now just bringing some financial constraint on us, because what we now need to do is to prioritize and reprioritize within our current constrained budgets to be able to address these particular issues. But I would like to indicate to you that we are quite committed to the process. With me, I've got a capable team that will be attending to this rehabilitation project, like we've indicated, as and when we visit the site after the session. We will be able to then see that our City Power team is already there. There is some processes taking place. On the side of JRA, we've managed to prioritize our budgets from within our own items, and we've appointed a contractor. So we should be able to open up that road within the next 2 weeks, and our teams are committed. We will ensure, that we provide further feedback to the media and to our residents in order for us to be able to ensure effective communication with you and effective feedback. But from the side of public safety, we will then ensure that we avoid any form of congestion on those roads with pointsmen and so forth, just to ensure that we address the area or the affected area. Let me thank you at this point. I can conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, City Manager. I think we will take now questions. So as we respond to the questions, the respective entity will then obviously deal with the detail. So may I request that as we take the first round, please indicate your name, the media house that you come from, and then raise your question. We will note and then direct the question accordingly based on what you will be raising. We will then take questions now with the show of hands from the media. Do we have another mic that we can use on the other side? Or should I just give you this one? Take this one, Tatis. Is it out? Okay, just use this one. I think there's a hand in front and there's a second one at the back.
Thank you so much for having us here. Alex Patrick from News 24. Did you say it would cost 10 million? I'm not sure if that's what you said. Otherwise, if you could just tell us how much damage was done. Thank you so much.
Jerry.
Gatel Sohoto from Kaya 959. Just in terms of the sabotage that you mentioned, Mr. Brink, it's not just the bridge that we've seen lately, but we're also seeing traffic lights, street lights just being vandalized at an unprecedented level across the city. Just your sentiments in terms of, is there a syndicate that's been identified? Do we know who's behind the sabotage and the vandalism that I think perhaps has spiked in recent months in the city?
Thanks. Just don't to hide it.
It's Heidi Chakas from NCA. I just want to make sure that have all areas, has electricity been restored in all areas? If not, when is that going to happen? Also, on the back of Kanako's question, I just need to understand what further measures are going to be put in place, because in the last year, the city has experienced fires, explosions, vandalism, theft, and anybody looking at the situation would say, what is actually going on and why aren't there proper measures in place? So as a city manager, can you maybe just tell us what you're doing to avoid this, because this is not only a problem? Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, CM will come in at the end. So, let me allow Charles from City Power to really talk to when are we restoring, and then probably just also talk about what interventions we are putting in place in terms of security and what we've already put in place to deal with infrastructure. Then, of course, the cost, you can talk to the cost. Then we'll follow with JRA to clarify the 10 million and what the 10 million is for. And then I think CM will then take the last one. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Greetings to everybody. Let me try to deal with the issues of the cost. I think the 10 million was attributed to JRA, how much it's going to cost them. From City Power point of view, the overall work in its own entirety is going to cost 23 million. But this will include from the bridge, including what we are trying to do through our interconnector cables. But I need to mention the fact that the interconnector cables, we are laying them because it's our immediate intervention to resolve the problem of customers that are still off. Meaning not all customers are restored. We still have customers that are off. So the work that which we are doing, the cost, including the bridge, we had about 11 kV cables from that bridge. We had telecommunications cables from that bridge. We had 88 XLPE, zero-line cable in that bridge. Tunnel. We also had 88 oil-filled cable. So we are replacing those 88 kV cables by their own entirety at the bridge. We're going to install also the telecommunications because we need to see our network as we operate on it visually or using technology. But also because this is the kind of work that is going to take us for quite some time. We have to, at this moment, try to make sure that we get customers going through temporary means of the interconnectors. So the interconnectors will be connected from the Bramfontein substation to Fort substation. So underground that Bramfontein area, we've got tunnels that also, that's where our cables are moving. They go up and go through underground as well. And it's the type of work that we're doing. There's a lot of work happening in Bramfontein. If you can go and check, you'll see there's a lot of people digging and others are underground, making those types of connection, redirecting cables and making sure that everything else is done accordingly without interrupting any power supplies of some of the existing cables feeding from the stations that are there. So that work in its own entirety is going to cost around 23 million. In terms of when will the electricity be restored? So we are working tirelessly to make sure that the electricity that is going to be restored through the temporary means, we want to at least bring the first batch of customers tonight. So we, based on the obstacles that we constantly encounter on site, we don't want to say all of them, but at least the first batch will be tonight. And when we load that, we're hoping that when everybody else has been restored, it will be on rotational basis. So meaning we'll have to look at if maybe perhaps during the day we can feed businesses around Braamfontein so that they can operate. And then maybe at night we can feed customers, or we can feed them within a 4-hour or 6-hour interval, depending on how we're going to deal with the situation. So we need to mention that the program of acquiring material already and the cables that are required are on site as we speak at the bridge, and even underground and even above ground around Braamfontein. So that kind of process, it's happening now. And then we are anticipating that these 88 cables, when you do the joint on them, it's not a simple joint that you can just make within a day and then you are done. It may take an average of 6 days to 7 days, just one joint. So we've got about 3 seconds there. And each second contains 3 cables. So it means we need to install 9 cables. And these are big, massive cables. So when you do a joint on those, you need to be very careful and also make sure that you do it and you do it once and right the first time. So it's gonna take about something around 8 days to do that kind of a work. So we've got teams that will be on the left side and the other team will be on the right side. From there, before you can even seal and so forth, you still need to test to verify that what you have done, it's above board, and everything, when you start to dispatch those electrons, everything, it's okay from that point of view. And when we do the testing, we test at all levels, at all angles from those cables. So the testing and the commissioning of it, of course, it will happen as we move along. And our transformers should indicate that they are still intact. Our transformers are intact, and it's only the cables that took a serious knock, which we want to make sure that when we work on them without even coming back anytime soon. And then from there we should be able to load our distributors and all our affected customers from Newtown, Junction, Parkview, Parktown, and including Parktown West. We should be able to go once everything is done. So when we look at this whole situation of rehabilitating or bringing back the entire cable to normality and to stability, we're looking around the 20th of May, somewhere there. But that does not mean those customers, they wouldn't be having some sort of a relief through our interconnectors. So everything else, we'll keep on communicating and updating our customers as to how far we are and what is it that we are doing. I would like to hand over my colleague to speak about theft and vandalism. Indeed, we are under siege as a city in terms of the traffic lights and street lights. Our infrastructure is highly vandalized. Mr. Taylor, if you want to assist, thank you very much. My apologies. My name is Charles Kowani. Charles Kowani. Thank you so much.
Thanks, City Manager, Chief Operation Officer of the City of Johannesburg, members of the media. My name is Sergeant. It should be recorded appropriately. That is a name, it's not a rank. And the surname is Taylor. I'm the General Manager of Security at City Park. Quite very briefly on the questions that have been asked, specifically as it pertains to the sabotage on our network. Is this a syndicate? I think that was the core of the question. It is syndicated, and it is not isolated to this specific incident. you will have to appreciate that from a national government perspective, government has established what we call the Non-Ferrous Metal Crime Combating Committee that seeks to address this particular issue across the whole country, which City Power is actually part of. So within that particular structure, we have got all the law enforcement agencies, including the criminal justice system, to be able to deal with this specific issue. So it is really syndicated, hence even the Hawks, they are part of that setup. As far as the question in terms of what is the city doing about this, subsequent to this specific incident, we did have a meeting with the police to actually reinvigorate the essential infrastructure task teams. Members of the media will appreciate that the President has established what we call essential infrastructure task teams that look at essential infrastructure crimes, including what we call construction mafias. So we were able then to meet the leadership of the SAPS in the district, Johannesburg, and we agreed on a plan of action which should kickstart quite very soon. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to engage on the details of that specific plan. Otherwise, it will defeat the very same purpose of the plan. But over and above that, as the City Power and the City of Johannesburg, we are also investing on technology in terms of protecting our substations. Quite very recently, we were able to launch one of our open turbines, and those media people who were there, they were able to see the capability which we have there in terms of technology to be able to monitor actually our network. But last, we are also reinvigorating our partnership with the communities and the lives of the CPFs, because we came to the understanding that this is more of a bigger phenomenon. It could be bigger than us, the City Power and the COJ, and therefore we need all the communities to be part and parcel of our strategy, so that at least they play what we call an active role towards the protection of this infrastructure, because literally, City Manager, it belongs to them. And I thank you.
Thanks, Sergeant. It's not a rank. Kaya, if you could just respond to the 10 million work, but also the 1.2 immediate work that we are doing on the bridge. Just explain that.
Thanks a lot, Program Director, City Manager, members of the media houses, to all my HODs and CEO that is present here. After the incident that happened on the 1st of May, which was as a result of fires that caused excessive heat in the structure, we ended up coming with two different solutions. Our solutions were focused mainly on short-term solution and the long-term solution. Out of this short-term, we also had what I can term the shortest one. The shortest one would be after you found that there's a damage, or you are seeing damages on the structure, what do you do? As the City Manager mentioned, there was a closure of Smith Street road as a result of the falling what we call biscuit layers, the concrete pieces, and also the closure of the far left lane of M1. On that was our shortest solution to ensure the safety of road users. But now what we did, given the complexity of the structure, we appointed, as the City Manager mentioned, we appointed a senior bridge specialist who did a detailed visual inspection on the structure. One of the findings that we found was that we found spalling on the structure, especially the beams of the structure on M1. We also found melted aluminium. The melted aluminium, if you know the melting point of aluminium, that's like 600 plus 660 degrees Celsius. I usually say in layman terms, If you have such a temperature and you need 100 degrees Celsius to boil your water, that is more than 6 times the temperature you need to boil your water. That temperature caused the cracking, what we call thermal cracking on the beams of the structure, and also cracking on the slab deck of the structure. There are some damages that were also caused on the expansion joints of the structure. We also had as I mentioned, on our beams, we also had damages on the slab. We also had a damage. There's a conduit, a stormwater conduit that is inside the tunnel where the services were. That conduit was tied using steel strips to sort of like transport stormwater that is being collected on the M1 bridge. That conduit got detached from the steel strips and it ended up lying down. So we also have stormwater issues to deal with on the structure. As I mentioned, our expansion joints, and also the parapets. The parapets is what I can call, what you call is like the railing on the structure. We also have to ensure that there are no damages that happen there. Now, we also have to sort of like look at the structure entirely as to what might have happened to the joints, which is the substructure just below the slab of the structure, what happened to the joints of the structure, and what is needed to be done. But most importantly, giving an answer to the 10 million that is going to be spent, will be attending to all such issues. Before we even attend to that, we will have to have our principal inspection. Our principal inspection is a detailed visual condition inspection, but now we will also be including, as the city manager mentioned, lab testing, which will include the coring of the concrete from in the structure. It will also involve the GPR scan. The GPR scan, we also want to check if there are any damages that happened on the reinforcement. I mentioned there are cracks in the beams. Those cracks, we don't know to what extent yet are they reaching. That is why we need the long term. So that is part of the planning that will happen on the long term solution. Program Director, I think I managed to summarize the council.
Thank you, Kaya. I think from a broader view in terms of what it is that we want to do, specifically with regard to this sabotage, vandalism and so on. I'm on record that on previous times I've indicated that it cuts across all other spheres of government. And in this regard, already we've started a process. I mean, in this case, we already have a SEPS number. We've got what we call the Joburg Safer City. It's something that we are doing within the city with our JMPD, Public Safety Team, EMS inspectors, working very closely with SEPS. We do have a MOU in place. But that's not the only thing that we can do on this one. We've already started yesterday to have discussions with the NPA on another matter, and this is how it will unfold as we are moving forward. We are well aware that alone we cannot do this, and we will have to ensure that we activate it from an IGR perspective, working closely with SEPS, the NPA, others. And you would have heard Sergeant when he started to speak that, and at the time when he gave a feedback to say is that even on their team, they've got the walks as well. So through the Office of the Coup, we are coordinating all these initiatives in order for us to be able to address this. So during a meeting last week Friday with the National Treasury, one of the things that were mentioned as well is specifically with regard to our infrastructure and the safeguarding of our assets. And I think the question is clear, because one of the things that we must indicate to you, we are under attack, and this level of vandalism and sabotage is not helping us anyway. And one of the things that we would always request our residents, our communities, to be vigilant enough and be able to report these things as and when they start to see them. So we can indicate to you we will be working closely with SEPS, to be able to see how this whole process will be unfolding. Thank you.
Thanks, CM. Thanks, Kaya and Charles and Sergeant. I think those were quite comprehensive. I'm not sure if there's any other follow-up questions that we can take. We can take second round. And then I think we can head on our way to site, so you can also have a view of the work that's been done there. So we've done that. Right? So is there any? None? Okay, we are fine. Okay, very clear. I'm not sure if there's Tatisi, you'll check with your colleagues if there's any need for a one-on-one. We'll close that quickly. Colleagues, on that note, can we just check how many are going to come with us to the M12 site, so that we have arranged a common transport so that we'll bring you back here. So we drive from here and then bring you back here so that at least you can see the actual work that happens. I think I saw three hands, 4, 5, 6, okay. Just so logistically we know what to do, okay. All right, so we should be fine with the transport, that should cover that. So really at high level, colleagues, I think from a security perspective, we really are centralizing in my office across infrastructure sectors, which is water, electricity, waste, roads, stormwater and bridges. We are really coordinating our efforts to deal with the protection of that infrastructure. And of course, from an institution, CM, I think it's important to mention this, that for the remainder of the term and the next 2 terms of local government, we want to focus on infrastructure rehabilitation, replacement. So the protection thereof is important. I thought it's an important point to make. Thanks, colleagues. Thank you very much. We can now go to the site. Maybe we'll do the interviews on the site if there are any. Thank you. Thanks.
No.